I'm calling the Housing Authority of the City of Salem to order for Monday, October 14th, 2024. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Commissioner Stapleton?
I'm here.
Vice Chair Phillips?
Here.
Commissioner Gwynn?
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Here.
Commissioner Hoy?
Here.
Commissioner Nordyke?
Here.
Commissioner Varney?
Here.
Resident Commissioner Villegas absent. Chair Nish. Oh, is she here?
I'm here.
Oh, my apologies. I didn't see you. And Chair Nishioka.
I'm here. Thank you. Will you please rise? I've asked Councillor Gwynn to start us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Vice Chair Phillips, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Not tonight.
Thank you. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment? We do not. May I have a motion for the consent calendar?
I move tonight's consent calendar.
Second. It's been moved by Vice Chair Phillips and seconded by Commissioner Gwynn. Counselor, to you.
Yeah.
Commissioner,
Tonight's,
to your motion.
Tonight's consent calendar consists of the 3.1A, the September 23rd, 2024 draft Salem Housing Authority minutes, and 3.3A, which is permit the Salem Housing Authority to serve as a special limited partner in the Northeast Salem Apartment Limited Partnership. And the recommendation there specifically is to approve resolution number 2314, authorizing the executive director or designee to enter into a limited partnership agreement with PRAY-GLA GP LLC and other partners of the partnership. And that concludes tonight's consent calendar.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Stapleton.
Yeah, that was always the hardest part to get, was changing everybody's title for this one meeting. I just wanted to say fantastic work on this. I'm so excited to see this come across our desk and to move forward with this project. Very, very exciting, and just thank you so much. I know it's a lot of hard work behind the scenes. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead. I think you had something you'd like to say. Thank you.
Sure. I'm Nicole Yates. I'm the housing administrator, and I'm going to turn it over to Jessica Blakely, who has some information on the project.
Hello, I'm Jessica Blakely, the Director of Development for Salem Housing Authority. We're very excited to bring the Gussie Bell Apartments partnership to you today. We're looking to enter into a special limited partnership similar to the one at Orchard Park. Our partnership provides a tax exemption, and in return we also have a right of first offer on the property in the event they sell it. There's a regulatory agreement placed on the property which limits the amount that they can charge in rent, but also it just provides an ownership interest for the Salem Housing Authority in this building. So we are our part owner, but they are kind of the upfront developer and the one that will put forward the effort in their own capacity to own and manage it, but we kind of stand back and provide a partnership with the tax exemption as what they get, but then for us we receive a participation fee for the closing and also an annual fee that will assist us in basically doing our mission in the community. So it helps provide income for key staff members for development.
Great, thank you. Yes, Chair Phillips.
Thank you, Chair. So, guys, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the update and the work you're doing. 119 units at that affordable rate of no more than 60% of defined affordable housing, and potentially even less, with a range of 30 to 60% is just awesome. So I think 119 units will help make a difference and help keep people housed in our community. So thank you. Awesome work.
Wonderful. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Commissioner Varney?
Aye.
Commissioner Stapleton?
Aye.
Vice Chair Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Gwynn?
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoy?
Aye.
Commissioner Nordyke? Aye. Resident Commissioner Villegas?
Aye.
Chair Nishioka?
Aye. Thank you. Ms. Utes, do you have any additional comments before we conclude our meeting?
Thank you. I'm Nicole Yates. I'm the Housing Administrator. We just wanted to comment tonight and thank all of our commissioners here and the support of the City of Salem and everybody who was in the development of Yaquina Hall. Yaquina Hall was recognized last week for its historic preservation with the largest community impact. We were chosen we were actually amazed by the projects that came in, and to see that Yaquina Hall was highlighted as the chosen one. I'm bringing some awareness to the City of Salem and the historic preservation of this building. Through all of through the United States, there's not been one housing authority that has ever won this award, let alone come in for a historic tax credit preservation. And I will say that Walsh Construction was our general contractor. They were the ones that did majority of submittal for this award, and we are the deepest gratitude for everybody who's been in partnership to make this happen. It's been open over a year. It's served a wonderful purpose. It continues to serve many households there, and we hope to bring many more future projects here to the City of Salem.
That is wonderful. Thank you very much. Yes, Commissioner Phillips.
Thank you, Chair. So I don't know if the audience at home can see it. Could you just hold up the hardware that we've got here? That's the kind of physical representation of what you guys are talking about. This is the national award that you guys got and so rightly deserve, up against stiff competition. First housing authority to ever receive something like this. I was wondering if either one of you could read like a paragraph or two from the magazine that highlights our good work. I understand we had stiff competition. We were up against awesome projects in communities like Philadelphia and across the nation.
I would love to. Again, Jessica Blakely, Director of Development for Salem Housing Authority. So here's just the intro to this award. Properties in Oregon, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and South Carolina are the winners of the 2024 Novogradac Historic Rehabilitation Awards for their use of historic tax credits. From a former nursing building in Salem, Oregon, to a former segregated school in Baltimore, to an abandoned power plant in Philadelphia, to a former powerhouse in Rock Hill, South Carolina, the 2024 winners exhibited the creativity and endurance required to successfully complete historic rehabilitation. The awards go to participants who strive for excellence in historic preservation, and the winners were honored at the Novogradac 2024 Historic Tax Credit Conference. So again, that was our competition. Oregon, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and South Carolina. Go Oregon!
Again, just to follow up, thank you so much. I mean, it's really a credit to what the work and all of your agency does. So just thank you again for what you've done, and that's just an awesome acknowledgement. So thank you for sharing.
Anyone else have any comments? Again, I think we should give you a round of applause. What a wonderful job. And now I will adjourn the Housing Authority meeting. Okay. So I call to order the City Council meeting for Monday, October 14th, 2024. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Stapleton?
Here.
Counselor Nishioka?
I'm here.
Counselor Phillips?
Here.
Counselor Gwynn?
Here.
Counselor Gonzalez?
Here.
Counselor Hoy?
Here.
Counselor Nordyke? Here. Counselor Varney?
Here. Thank you. Just to let everyone realize that Mayor Hoy, Chris Hoy, is at a conference, and he is so he's not here. And I, as council president, get to take the honor of presiding on the meeting. So bear with me, everyone. Thank you. All right. So I have asked Councilor Stapleton to help facilitate the meeting. Do you have a motion on, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Thanks. This is just like old times.
Yeah.
I move additions to the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. We have an addition to the agenda on item 3.3C, which is just a correction of the employee's name. So you will see that in your packets.
Great, thank you. It's been moved by Councilor Stapleton and seconded by Councilor Phillips for the addition on the agenda. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Gwynn.
Aye.
Counselor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Counselor Hoy.
Aye.
Counselor Nordyke.
Aye.
Counselor Varney.
Aye.
Counselor Stapleton.
Aye.
Counselor Nishioka.
Aye.
Counselor Phillips.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So we are on to council and city manager comments. Does anyone have anything to say? Yes, Councilor Nordyke, please.
Thank you so much. Well, folks, it's that time of year again. The annual South Salem Town Hall. Here we go. Yes, camera, zoom in on that, baby. That's right. Oh, they are. Yes, well done. See, you can even get the QR code at home, potentially. So, there we go. Make it even. Thank you so much. So, tomorrow is the second annual South Salem Town Hall. Doors open 6:15 p.m. Program 6:30 to 7:30. And we are running a tight 1-hour program. Isn't that right, Councilor Gwen? That is absolutely true. Yes. So all South Salem residents are welcome to this town hall. And we are going to be having a discussion of hot topics affecting South Salem residents. But I've also asked our fire chief, our police chief, our city manager, our Eunice Kim from planning to give us some high-level updates because, folks, I know you're busy. I know you don't get to go to every single neighborhood association meeting and that you have a lot going on in your life. But if you go to one meeting, one neighborhood association-y type meeting in the South Salem area, please come to this town hall because we're going to be giving you that executive summary, that 10,000-foot view of information straight from, again, the fire chief, the police chief, our city manager, and also some exciting updates in urban development. For example, did you know that in recent years, we've invested $104 million in renovation and adaptive reuse of our downtown area and new construction? $104 million. And we have another $83 million coming in more investments. And that is information that is taken directly from our senior staff, in this case, Director Kristen Rutherford. So we want to give you a high-level overview of what's going on in our city, and then people's favorite portion of the event will come about, which is what I call Q&A, or what some may call Stump the City Councilor. I have a feeling that when people line up for Q&A, which was very popular at the town hall last year, you might have some technical questions. Councilor Gwynn and I will do our best to answer. But we may also end up giving you our business card and saying, let's have a follow-up conversation, or let's connect you with a member of city staff who is the technical expert on the question that you've raised. But either way, I want you to come there with your questions and participate. And by the way, if you have if this is a kid-friendly event, I know a lot of youngsters who are curious about civic engagement. They've never seen democracy in action. They've never met elected officials, and city politics is really the ground floor. So I encourage folks to come and participate. So thank you. And of course, it is free to attend. Once again, that's tomorrow, Tuesday, October 15. Location, Westminster Presbyterian Church, 3737 Liberty Road South. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Councilor Nordyke. I am unable to attend because I have two annual neighborhood association meetings at the same time, so maybe next year we'll be able to do it.
I hope so. Would love to have you.
Anyone else have any comments? Yes, Councilor Stapleton.
Yeah, just briefly, I wanted to mention that I was invited and got to attend the 100-year anniversary for Parish Middle School. It was a lot of fun to go, and they had historians, kind of local historians all there that had just the different marching band outfits and all the things over the years that they've had at Parish. And it was really great to see the community there. A lot of folks who went to school there and still lived close by came to reminisce, and they did videos where they told stories about what Parish was like. So it was really a lot of fun, and I was really glad to be a part of the community in that way. So thanks.
Great, thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes, Councillor Phillips.
Just a couple of basic things. As many people know, I'm an emergency room doctor, so this time of year I like to remind everybody to get their shots. I got my second shot in that I got my flu shot last week. So I've now had both my COVID vaccine and my flu shot, and I'm feeling fine. So I recommend and highly recommend everybody who can does get that. It's available for everybody 6 months and up. I believe the recommendations is if you're over the age of 65, you're going to end up getting 2 COVID shots a year. But at least get the one. It's a new formulation. So we're still seeing patients who have COVID and influenza, and it's something that'll take very nominal time out of your day. And getting sick sucks. So help us on the front lines of the healthcare by doing your part to get protected. We're all in this together. The other thing that I would say is just I think our democratic republic is a good form of government, but a democracy is only as strong as voting for it. It's yours to keep. I think there's a saying to that effect. So I think in Oregon, the last day to register to vote is tomorrow. So I highly encourage everybody at home to look in the mail for your voter's pamphlet, go through that, and if you haven't already, sign up to vote. You can usually do it online, I think, by tomorrow, or go to your county office. So ballots should go out probably later this week, and I encourage everybody to vote.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? I would like to just report that last week I had the opportunity to visit Mosaic Place, a former motel that has been transformed into a transitional housing complex for survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault, along with their children. Mosaic Place is part of the Center for Hope and Safety, a nonprofit organization that provides critical support to these survivors. Their services include emergency shelter, advocacy, counseling, legal assistance, all aimed at helping individuals and families work towards stability, independence, and healing from the trauma. The Center for Hope and Safety is a vital resource for our community, supporting survivors as they rebuild their lives. And I encourage anyone who can help this remarkable organization to do so with either volunteering or financial support. Thank you. All right, no other comments. Then we shall move on to proclamations. I have asked some of our counselors to provide these proclamations. The first one we have is for Indigenous Peoples Day, and I would ask that Dolores Pigsley, if she is here, to come forward, and Counselor Barney to come forward. And is this on? So this is already on. Wonderful. Yes. Thank you for coming.
Very much. Okay. Whereas from time immemorial, Oregon lands have been home to many indigenous peoples, including members of the Santiam Kalapuya, whose ancestral homelands include the area known as Salem today, and throughout the surrounding Willamette Valley area, including what is now the city of Salem. They have lived and prospered by maintaining strong cultural ties to the land and through wise management of resources. And whereas in 2020, the city of Salem signed an agreement with the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde Community of Oregon, and in 2021, the city signed an agreement with the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians in order to strengthen the relationship between the city and the tribes. And whereas we affirm our commitment to fostering a deeper understanding and appreciation for the diversity of cultures and celebrating all that indigenous people do to cultivate a community that honors and respects the diverse history of Salem. Whereas on May 18th, 2021, the Oregon Legislative Assembly approved House Bill 2526, approving the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day. And now, therefore, I, for Chris Hoy, Mayor of the City of Salem, do hereby proclaim October 14th, 2024 as Indigenous Peoples Day, and encourage residents to join in learning about and honoring the culture and recognize the contributions of Indigenous people have made to our country, our state, and to our community. Dated this 14th day of October, 2024. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
I just want to say I'm proud to accept this award on behalf of our tribe, and I look forward to a working relationship with the Salem City Council. I live here in Salem, and so I'm very aware of all the work that you do and all the issues that come forward, and I very much appreciate what you do, and I thank you for this award. It really means a lot to us. Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
All right, thank you. Now I have Councillor Phillips coming forward for the Hands and Words Are Not for Hurting. And I need to have, let's see, I am calling up Nicole Utes.
Testing. Is this, yeah, okay, come on up. Thanks, Nicole. Okay, tonight's proclamation. Whereas a community without abuse, violence, and suicide is a dream we all share, and whereas any form of mistreatment of another is abuse, and all people have the moral and legal right to live free of abuse and violence, and whereas each of us must come to understand that it is within our personal power to choose not to use abuse and violence to resolve conflict, and whereas we recognize that respect for ourselves and others is key to developing healthy relationships at every age and in all circumstances, and whereas the principle of nonviolent resolution of conflict must be taught to our children and practiced within each of our families, and whereas verbal and emotional abuse can be just as damaging as physical violence to a person's self-worth, creating scars that are carried for the rest of their life. And whereas verbal abuse such as name-calling, insulting, and belittling frequently escalates to simple force like pushing, grabbing, or slapping, and worst case scenario is the escalation to rage, serious violence, and even murder. And whereas self-harm and suicide must be acknowledged as a serious public health crisis as numbers of victims continue to escalate in children, teens, and adults. And whereas together with communities around the country and overseas recognize the Hands and Words Are Not for Hurting Project's Purple Hands Pledge is an effective tool in abuse, violence, and suicide prevention education. And now, therefore, I, Councillor Phillips, on behalf of Chris Hoy, Mayor of Salem, Mayor of the City of Salem, do hereby proclaim October 20th, October 20th to 26th, 2024 as Hands and Words Are Not for Hurting Week, and encourage residents to join hands and hearts to unite as a family and a community to pledge that I will not use my hands and words for hurting myself or others. Dated this 14th day of October 2024, signed the Mayor of the City, Chris Hoy. And Nicole, you're here tonight to talk a little bit. Thank you so much for the work you do.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm here on behalf of Ann Kelly. In the spirit of Ann Kelly's dedication to gratitude, I am truly honored to accept their proclamation on behalf of Ann Kelly, Hands and Words Are Not Meant for Hurting Project. Joining of the hands and the hearts to end abuse, violence, and suicide in our homes, school, and communities around the world. The Hands and Words Are Not for Hurting Project is an effective tool and a key piece in the puzzle of abuse, violence, and suicide prevention education. Their vision says safe homes, safe schools, and safe communities. And the Salem Housing Authority has been a collaborative partnership with this project for many years, dating back to 2011 when we were seeking assistance on the best means to educate children on playgrounds and coming up with a receptive way that we could identify the hand project and helping them to remind them. The simple words were effective, and so we've carried on this tradition every year. You'll see that our Yaquina Hall project is lit up purple. Sequoia Crossings is following soon behind it, and we're very proud to have those turn purple so we can help educate everybody why that is. And we're just a proud partner of this partnership. On Anne's behalf, and I'm sorry she's not able to join us tonight, she is weathering the storms in Florida with family, and we're thankful that they're all safe from both of the hurricanes that occurred out there. But she has asked if everybody would raise their right hand and take the pledge if you're willing. So I will not use my hands or my words for hurting myself or others. Thank you. And normally she'd have the purple hands here, and I'm very sorry I didn't have those tonight. She also wanted to highlight that the Purple Hands Pledge will now be displayed on digital boards throughout locations in September, October, and November. And we hope that this reminds, this beautiful digital image will help remind everyone of this project and making sure that we're changing lives and saving lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we now have, thank you again. We now have Councillor Hoy coming forward for the White Cane Safety Day, and Marja Byers from Sight Loss Instructor for the Hull Foundation.
I love your shirt. I can see, but I can't. It's complicated. That's wonderful. Your friends are joining you. I'm Julie.
We can go ahead and read the proclamation.
Okay. You want me to get started? Okay. Whereas the City of Salem recognizes that everyone has the right to equality, opportunity, independence, and freedom. And whereas we also recognize that those in our community who are blind or otherwise disabled have the same rights as they pursue employment and full participation in the economic and social life. And whereas we understand that the white cane is not only a tool used by those who are blind to travel independently and safely, but is also a symbol of their rights as they pursue their goals. And whereas we recognize that these rights are protected through the laws at the local, state, and federal levels through legislation known as the White Cane Law, in an effort to prevent accidents. And whereas we urge motorists to act courteously and take proper precautions when encountering blind pedestrians on our streets and sidewalks. And now, therefore, I, for Chris Hoy, Mayor of the City of Salem, do hereby proclaim October 15th, 2024 as White Cane Safety Day, and invite the community to use this occasion to reflect upon the significance of the white cane and to support employment and full integration of blind individuals in our city. Dated this 14th day of October, 2024.
Thank you. October 15th is actually now dedicated as International White Cane Safety Day. So thank you for acknowledging it and helping us bring community awareness. For those of you who can't see my t-shirt, it says, I can see but I can't. Hashtag, it's complicated. What most people don't understand is that only about 18% of people who are legally blind are totally blind. The rest of us have some variation of sight. So I want to read to you very quickly the basic, this is paraphrased by me, our Oregon's White Cane Safety Law. So, a driver approaching a pedestrian who is using a white cane or working with a guide dog and who is crossing or about to cross the roadway shall stop and remain stopped until the pedestrian has crossed the roadway completely. That means all parts of them, their cane, or their dog have left the roadway. That is Oregon's basic white cane law. But just a reminder, if you're a bicyclist, as all traffic laws, white cane laws apply to you too. Another little reminder is many of us forget that in Oregon, any roadway, any corner to corner is a crosswalk, whether it's painted or not. Another little reminder is that if you're a driver approaching a pedestrian using a white cane, please remember, the white cane is a tool that helps us navigate safely and independently. Please do not shout warnings or try and steer a pedestrian. Unless that pedestrian is very close to being hit, then please do say something. And I have had friends who have come off of a corner incorrectly and ended up in the middle of a busy downtown Salem intersection. Pretty scary. But if you are watching white canes walking down the sidewalk, people like me who have central sight, I'm looking through tiny straws, but I see pretty well. I'm going to walk quickly, but as soon as that white cane tip hits those truncated domes, those little bumpy things that crosswalks, that's what they're there for. They're to let us know if we take one more step, we're in the street. So I may come up quickly, I feel those bumps, I'm gonna pull up my cane until I can assess whether it's safe for me to go or not. So if I'm standing with my cane next to me, I'm not gonna be stepping out. When I'm ready to step out, I'm gonna flag. That tells you I'm stepping out. Not all of us do it, but those of us who have had orientation and mobility training within the last probably 10 years, we're gonna flag to let you know we're coming out. So to conclude, along with my friends, John and Maria, I just want to propose a new family fun car game. Spot the white cane, or spot the guide dog. Talk to your family and your friends about what does white cane mean. You would be amazed at how many people have no idea. What is that thing? Why are you carrying that stick? And do you know the difference between how to recognize a service dog from a guide dog? It's kind of a fun game. Once you start looking around at white canes, Salem has a disproportionately high amount of seniors who are going blind. And by 2050, we are going to see about double what we are currently seeing. So please be aware, help keep us safe. We're trying our best, but we need all the help we can get. Thank you so much.
Great job. This is for you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's nice to have you here tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Marjar. That was wonderful information and helpful reminder for all of us. Thank you very much. All right, we are on to public comment, and we have one person signed up. And so will Matt Brozovich please step forward? You'll have 3 minutes for your presentation. The flashing yellow light warns you that there's 1 minute left, and the red light means that you're finished.
Excellent. Good evening, City Manager, Council President Nishioka, and City Council. My name is Matt Brozovich, and I'm a resident of Ward 4 and the president representing the firefighters, as well as the future EMTs and paramedics for the City of Salem. I'm here tonight to advocate and speak on behalf of the passage of Agenda Item 5A, which involves adding 60 well-trained, educated members of the City of Salem and the Salem Fire Department to the streets of Salem July 1st. We believe this will deliver the gold standard of the City of Salem for emergency medical services for years to come. And how exciting that we all got to be part of it. A few months ago, we advocated for the city to bring transport services back under the City Fire Department's purview, and I'm here again tonight to ask you to support those obligations we spoke about. Our local has been an active partner throughout this process, helping us reach this point. I'm pleased to report that the fire department is exceeding all timelines set by council and has attracted the largest application pool in the state, with many employees eager to work here in our capital city. I'd also like to take a moment to thank all of you for your unanimous support for this transition And a special thanks to Deputy City Manager Naburi for her leadership in HR and ensuring that bargaining was completed in a timely manner and that the future employees for the City of Salem were well taken care of. I also would be remiss if I didn't thank the City of Salem Budget Office, along with Deputy Chief Brian Carrera and Deputy Chief Kyle Amsbury for their tireless efforts over the last few months on this very exciting endeavor. On behalf of your current firefighters protecting the City of Salem and the future EMTs and paramedics and the entire Salem Fire Department, we thank you for your confidence in the Salem Fire Management Team and our local to implement this successfully. We assure you this will be successful, and we cannot wait for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for him, for Matt? All right, thank you. All right, consent calendar. May I have a motion for the consent calendar?
I move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
All right.
It's been moved and seconded. Councillor Stapleton, to your motion.
Thank you. Tonight we have items 3.1A, the September 23rd, 2024 draft City Council minutes. Item 3.3A, the purchase and sale agreement with Jorge Bembila Sr. and Jorge Bembila Jr. for sale of surplus city property located at the intersection of Moore Lane Northwest and Bartell Drive Northwest. Item 3.3B, intergovernmental agreement of the Oregon Department of Transportation Northwest Oregon 2024 through 2027 ADA curb ramp projects. Item 3.3C, the purchase of a business associated with a city employee. Yes, did I say that right? Purchasing from a business, I think I said that wrong, associated with a city employee. 3.3D, addition of a 0.25 full-time equivalent position and conversion of 2 limited duration positions in the Information Technology Division of the Enterprise Services Department to support the Enterprise Resource Planning Software Project. Item 3.3E, the City of Salem's comments to the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality on Marion County's 3-basin rulemaking petition. And that concludes the consent calendar.
Thank you. So it has been moved by Stapleton, seconded by Councillor Phillips. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councillor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councillor Hoy.
Aye.
Councillor Nordyke. Councillor Varney.
Aye.
Councillor Stapleton.
Aye.
Council President Nishioka.
Aye.
Councillor Phillips.
Aye.
Councillor Gwen.
Aye.
And Mayor Hoy is absent. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're on to public hearings. We will now open a public hearing. Do I need to tap this? Okay. On. Go ahead.
The Salem City Council will now conduct a public hearing concerning substantial amendment 1 to the 2024 Annual Action Plan for Community Block Grant Funds and 2023 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. The hearing will be conducted with staff presentation first, followed by other interested persons. Individuals testifying are limited to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Great. I think we have Tiffany Otis here, and we welcome you. And just again, I'm always amazed at all the hard work you do. So go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you, council members, and missing Councillor Hoy tonight, but thank you, Councillor Nishioka, for sitting in. My name is Tiffany Otis, Federal Programs Manager in the Community Planning and Development Department. Is my presentation up? I do have slides that I opened to share. The purpose of tonight's public hearing is to provide an opportunity for the public to hear and comment on the proposed 2024 Annual Action Plan, Substantial Amendment Number 1. If council recalls, back from the 2024 CDBG funds, that Garten Services requested $34,392 for economic development and building safety. The request was for fire door replacement and a repair to the fire hydrant that supplies water to the sprinkler system in the building. Upon my physical inspection for the environmental review, it was noted there were 4 fire doors that needed replacement due to the age and a recent code from city inspection. Other details emerged about a fire marshal report for cobwebs and dust being flammable material, which is a direct violation of the NFPA Code 654. By correcting the code violations with replacement of all the doors, the cleanup of the dust and cobwebs, this fire safety threat will keep the building and workers safe. Federal programs request the council to approve the increase of funds of $121,000, totaling $155,392 for the replacement of the fire doors, the fire hydrant, and the cleanup of dust and cobwebs. There was one public comment made towards the substantial amendment. However, it was not related to this request. The comment will be submitted to HUD as it does pertain to the 2024 Annual Action Plan. And then a council comment about an error in the counselor appointment to the Mid-Valley Homeless Alliance that was listed as Counselor Gwynn is actually Counselor Varney. So that will be corrected upon submission. And this concludes the 2024 Annual Action Plan substantial amendment.
Wonderful. Any questions? So do I ask? So I shall close the hearing. And then, thank you. Councilor Stapleton, do I hear a motion?
I move staff recommendations.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Stapleton, seconded by Councilor Phillips. Are there any other comments or? Yes, Councilor Nordijk.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to point out that this is a city staff report worth sinking your teeth in to really see how many people have been positively impacted by the CDBG funds and all the other various funds. Total clients served under our goal number 1 of addressing homelessness was over 14,000 people. That includes meals delivered to seniors through the Marion Pope Food Share, case management services for St. Francis Shelter and Women at the Well Grace House, and vouchers for the Community Action Agency Arches Project and the St. Francis Shelter. It also, under Goal 2, permanent housing projects, Yaquina Hall, Sequoia, Evergreen, or Cottage Street Apartments, Mahonia, Fisher/Sizemore Apartments, and the continued Maclay Road Home Ownership Subdivision. When complete, all these projects will mean over 200 new units, and that's incredible. So we move the needle every day, and these partner organizations that we work with, we work together with them in tandem every day. And I just think it's really amazing when I really dig into the math and just imagine how many lives have been positively impacted because of this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Nordijk. I was going to do further presentation on the 23 caper with which she just mentioned and the support that the CDBG dollar has and the impact. So I would like to do that presentation now, if I may.
Yes, thank you. Sorry that we jumped the gun.
That's okay.
But,
so again, presentation of slides. I'm not sure why they're not showing up. But tonight is the 2023 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development requires the city to report on the performance of the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership funds. And this is during the period of July 1, 2023 through June 30th of 2024. The Consolidated Annual Performance Report identifies the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership funded projects or programs intended to meet the needs of individuals and families earning 80% or less of the median family income. The 2 goals identified for representing these funds this year was addressing homelessness and expansion of affordable housing. Based upon applications from the community partners during the 2023 and 2024 program, those were the 2 priorities of the funding goals. Goal 1, in addressing homelessness and the accomplishments, as Councilor Nordijk spoke of the 768 persons that were served through case management, homeless prevention, fair housing, education, and nutritious meals. Those projects were delivered by Marion and Polk Food Shares Meals on Wheels for seniors, St. Francis Shelter and Women at the Well Grace House for case management, as well as administrative support to Fair Housing Council of Oregon for fair housing education to the subrecipients and partners. Goal number 2 for Expand Affordable Housing, the ongoing activities for the 2023 funded partner of Applegate Terrace Apartments, location in West Salem, and the new construction of single-family home ownership of the Maclay Road homes, and the 2023 funds are to support the down payment assistance for this project. Some delays are a consequence of the supply chain issues and the increased building material costs. Inflation is a factor in securing construction financing, and this is not expected to be relieved until 2025. Maclay project has broke ground and is delivering plot lines in preparation for building. Applegate has 3 of 5 buildings up current. Community partners that I'd like to thank tonight for the 2023 fundings is Mid-Willamette Valley Community Action Agency, Northwest Human Services Crisis and the Host Youth Shelter, Dev Northwest, Applegate Landing, St. Francis Shelter, Women at the Well, Center for Hope and Safety, Marion and Polk Food Share, and the Continuum of Care. Preceding tonight's public hearing was a 30-day comment period allowing citizens the opportunity to review and comment on the performance of the outcomes. At this time, none were towards the 2023 CAPER, just the 2024 substantial amendment. This concludes the 2023 CAPER program. Thank you.
Again, thank you. Some apologies for jumping ahead.
That's okay.
Does anyone have any comments at this time? I simply, again, want to say excellent job, the amazing number of people you're able to serve with the other organizations. Thank you for all of the work that you do. If there aren't any other comments, then I will ask the recorder to call the roll on the motion made by Stapleton and seconded by Phillips.
Councillor Hoy.
Aye.
Councillor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councillor Varney.
Aye.
Councillor Stapleton.
Aye.
Council President Nishioka.
Aye.
Councillor Phillips.
Aye.
Councillor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councillor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy absent. Thank you.
The motion passes. All right. We now have, I'm going to open up another public hearing. Do I tap the gavel again? Sure. All right. I get to hit this thing. And Mr. Bryce Bishop will be presenting from the city.
The Salem City Council will now conduct a public hearing to consider an appeal of the Planning Commission's decision approving a proposed two-parcel partition and planned unit development subdivision creating 11 residential lots along with common open space, case number PUD SUB PARUGA ADJ 24-01 for property located in the 700 to 800 block of Creekside Drive Southeast. The criteria applicable to the decision are SRC 210.025D for the planned unit development and subdivision tentative plan, SRC 205.005D for the partition tentative plan, SRC 200.025D and E for the urban growth preliminary declaration, and SRC 250.005D2 for the Class 2 adjustment. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward the applicable criteria or other criteria which the person believes to apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue prior to the close of the public hearing in person or in writing, or failure to provide statements or evidence with sufficient specificity to provide the parties and the City Council an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. A similar failure to raise constitutional issues relating to proposed conditions of approval precludes an action for damages in circuit court. The hearing will begin with a staff presentation, followed by testimony from the following: The applicant is limited to 10 minutes. Applicable neighborhood associations are limited to 5 minutes. Other interested parties are limited to 3 minutes, and the applicant may have up to 5 minutes rebuttal testimony limited to issues raised during public testimony. Thank you.
Before you get started, I'm going to ask if there's any disclosures to be made at this time. Councillor Hoy?
Thank you. As required by the Salem Charter, I would like to disclose that entities connected with this land use hearing have contributed to my campaign. I would like to remind this body and anyone listening that campaign contributions are available publicly. We've been told by the Salem Charter, it says elected officials should not participate as decision makers if it, quote, would create the appearance of bias or impropriety in the mind of a reasonable person, end quote. Oregon law specifically states that campaign contributions do not create a conflict of interest. That is ORS 244.020 and ORS 244.040. Here in Salem, as in communities all across the country, residents financially support candidates for public office. This is part of our democratic process. The Supreme Court has said it is free speech, protected by the First Amendment. Reasonable people understand that they support candidates financially, and this does not create bias or conflict. Hundreds of people have supported me, and countless more have supported those sitting around this table. This doesn't mean each of us has bias or conflict of interest. It means people heard our positions on policies and by and large support those positions. This is how democracy works. Our system of government cannot function if contributing to a campaign means that you now no longer have the representation by your local elected official. That would make a reasonable person question. That interpretation is unworkable and would have a chilling effect on the residents of Salem. The people of Salem have showed up, contributed to each of our campaigns, have voted for us to sit in these seats, and the reasonable ones expect us to take the votes presented to us. Because of this, I will do what I was elected to do by the voters in Ward 6, which is to cast a vote to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. Thank you, Councillor Hoy. Councillor Gwynn.
And I have the same disclosure to make as required. Everything that Julie said as required by Section 62 of the Charter, but I do intend to participate in the hearing as well.
Thank you, Councillor Gwynn. Councillor Phillips.
I'm attempting to disclose a potential conflict of interest at the risk of being like maybe overthinking it. We have youth household members that are members of the Creekside golf course. So kind of similar to the Costco where everybody announced they had Costco memberships. I just want to get that on the record. I don't think it's a big deal. I'll use logic and the laws and criteria to make my decisions.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Anyone else? Should we all? All right. Mr. Bishop, go ahead.
Good evening, Council President Nishioka and City Councilors. I'm Bryce Bishop with the Community Planning and Development Department, and I'm here tonight to present the appeal of the Plan Unit Development, Subdivision, Partition, Urban Growth Area Preliminary Declaration, and Class 2 adjustment for property in the 700 to 800 block of Creekside Drive Southeast. So there are several components to this consolidated application. The first element is a partition, and that takes 13.7 acres of the Creekside Golf Course, a fairway of the Creekside Golf Course, and proposes to divide it into 2 parcels, along with a Class 2 adjustment to allow the fairway parcel that is created, the remaining fairway parcel that is created with the partition, to exceed the maximum lot depth allowed by the code based on its width. And then the biggest element is the further development of one of the proposed parcels in the partition, which is parcel 1 on Creekside Drive, into an 11-unit plan unit development subdivision on the north side of Creekside Drive. So in terms of the subject property, it is located in the 700 and 800 blocks of Creekside Drive southeast, as seen on the slide here. And it's a 13.7 acre property in orange, and it is a fairway of the Creekside Golf Course. It is located directly north of Creekside Drive and west of Crooked Stick Street, and both of those streets are private streets within the Creekside Estates homeowners, or the Creekside Estates Golf Club Estates, rather, at Creekside PUD. And the private streets within this development are subject to the Creekside Estates States Homeowners Association because they are private. A short distance to the west is Sunnyside Road, which is a minor arterial street, and Creekside Drive provides east-west connectivity through the development from Sunnyside on the east over to Lone Oak on the west, and Lone Oak is a collector, but you don't see this on here, but it's a little bit of a distance to the west, and it's a north-south running collector street. And then, of course, the majority of the golf course is to the south here. So in terms of the zoning map, the property is zoned residential agriculture RA, and that's kind of shown by the greenish yellow color there. Surrounding the property is, of course, the rest of the golf club estates at Creekside, various phases of that plan unit development, and those are zoned single-family residential. And once this property is divided, the PUD subdivision will turn to a yellow single-family designation, and the remainder of the fairway parcel will stay as residential agriculture. So here's just a quick look at the partition. It takes the whole fairway piece and then divides it into two parcels. Parcel 1 will remain as the fairway and open space, and then the parcel 2 is the one that is to be further divided into the 11 lots. The layout of the subdivision is shown on the screen here. So the lots are to the north of Creekside Drive. They have a private street, that's a new street proposed, Villa Loop, that loops off of Creekside Drive to the north, providing vehicle access and pedestrian access to these lots. So lots 3 through 11 will be served by Creekside or Villa Loop. Lots 1 to 2, however, will have direct access onto Creekside Drive because there isn't enough depth in property, physical depth between the north side of Creekside Drive and the north property line of the property in order to loop Villa Loop all the way around. So two of the lots will retain access onto Creekside Drive. All the other ones will take access to the new street, Villa Loop. In terms of providing a little bit of a context for the site, we have an aerial photo and then 2 shots of street view images. So on the north aerial photo, we see a portion of the subject property, which is to the right here, the fairway. And then you have the development to the west of the subject property, which has been developed in subsequent phases of the planned unit development. So I'm showing this slide to kind of give a context in terms of what exists out there. So when you compare the property, the subject property, and you look at its slope, you can see that Creekside Drive is down below. There's a pretty steep slope as it goes up and away from Creekside Drive to the north, and that same topographical characteristic is found on the properties to the west that have been developed, where you have Creekside Drive, sidewalk on one side, and then the homes that are placed up and away from Creekside on the flat part of the site, and then all of these homes that are on Inverness Street here. So here's Creekside Drive here, and then, so you can see these are double frontage lots, and a double frontage lot is a home that has frontage on 2 streets, front and rear. And so in this case, the homes to the west have frontage on Inverness. They face the street, take access from the street, and they also have frontage on Creekside Drive, but those lots do not take any access from Creekside Drive. And so based on the topographical constraints, there were variances approved in past earlier versions of the development that were approved to allow sidewalks to be constructed on one side of the street. And that's why you see today sidewalks on the south side generally along the western portion of Creekside Drive all the way to Lone Oak, and then you have a southern property line sidewalk along the subject property to the east for some distance until you get to areas where it's less topographically constrained, and you have homes that are on both sides of Creekside that face the street. And where those homes are on both sides facing the street, there are, and it's flatter, there are sidewalks on both sides of the street. So in terms of the proposed development, here we have the layout of the subdivision with the aerial photo, and then a couple schematic illustrations that were provided by the applicant during the initial planning commission review of the application. And so very similar, situation. Again, the homes are proposed to be, and these are duplexes, 11 lots with a duplex on each lot. And the homes are located up and away from Creekside at the flat part of the site up on the hill. There will be no access, to the homes, from the homes to Creekside for vehicle access. Instead, those homes will face to the north, and they will have vehicle access to Villa Loop, in addition to a new sidewalk that is proposed on Villa Loop to provide pedestrian access and connectivity. So in terms of the review of the application, it included a request to allow an alternative street standard to allow sidewalks, the existing sidewalk configuration along Creekside Drive to remain with just the sidewalk on the south side. And so based on those existing configurations with topography and the fact that the original plan unit development included variances to allow sidewalks on the south side of the street, and it was kind of an established development pattern for the area, staff recommended that the alternative street standard could be approved. And because of the lack of sidewalks on the north side there, we wanted to make sure there were adequate linkages to link up the sidewalks that were in place on the north side and the south side of Creekside Drive to the proposed new sidewalk. And so in this case, there is a condition 15 in the decision, which requires that there is an existing sidewalk on the north side that terminates just east of the property where this little dashed orange line is. And so there's an extension of that sidewalk to the boundary of the new street to allow that extension of pedestrian connectivity. So a pedestrian could choose to, if they want to go to the new lots, they could go up and around via the sidewalk on the street, or they could cross to the south side of Creekside Drive here, and then they could continue along the southern length of the street where there is an existing sidewalk. There's also one gap of sidewalk connectivity on the western edge of this lot line, and it is right here where this orange line is. And so the condition requires an extension of that sidewalk to Clubhouse Drive, and then the little blue boxes are ADA curb receiving ramps to facilitate pedestrian access. So the original condition was to provide those linkages for pedestrian connectivity, and it didn't include a recommendation to provide a sidewalk on the north side of Creekside because of the existing considerations and previous approvals. However, on August 6th, there was a public hearing on the proposal before the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission took staff's report, testimony from the applicant and the public and the Homeowners Association, and there was a request prior to the end of the hearing to leave the record open for additional testimony to be submitted. That request was granted, and so the hearing was closed. The Planning Commission left the record open for additional testimony to be provided, and then on August 20th, the comment period ended. The Planning Commission reconvened, deliberated, and made a decision, and that decision was to approve the proposal as staff recommended, with the additional revision that a condition be added, condition 14, to require a sidewalk on that north side of Creekside Drive along the entire frontage of the property. So not just the sidewalk that goes around Villa Loop, but an additional one on the north side. That condition was based on the requirements of the streets chapter, which requires 803, which requires generally sidewalks on both sides of the street unless an alternative street standard is proposed and approved. And the condition was established because the Planning Commission felt it was necessary to provide that missing link in the pedestrian system for sidewalks. After the decision was issued, an appeal was filed by the applicant on September 11th, and the appeal of the decision specifically contests the condition that was added by the Planning Commission for the additional sidewalk on the north side of Creekside Drive. Staff's response to those issues are included in the staff report in terms of where they felt the decision erred and was in violation of state law and federal law. In terms of public comment, the property is within the South Gateway Neighborhood Association. We didn't receive any comments from the Neighborhood Association, but the property is also within the Creekside Homeowners Association, of course, and we did receive comments from them both during the initial public hearing at the Planning Commission and during and for this appeal hearing tonight. And you have the comments from the Homeowners Association in your packet, and so they generally support the proposal and the sidewalks that were proposed by the applicant, not the one on the north side, but the linkages. And they do support good connectivity, but they feel in this case having the sidewalk on the north side of the street doesn't help to achieve any greater benefit than what the applicant is proposing with the linkages outside of the site plus the new sidewalk. And they feel that actually that new sidewalk would just add additional cost to the Homeowners Association for maintenance, as it's their responsibility to maintain it because it's private. So with that, I would conclude my presentation and recommend that the Council affirm the Planning Commission's decision.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Are there any questions for Mr. Bishop? Councilor Varney.
Is this the time to ask about design, et cetera? I don't know.
Yeah, if there's any kind of question you have and I can answer it, I'll be happy to give it a shot.
Okay. I had a couple of questions. Will lots 1 and 2 have a sidewalk in front of them?
No, they will not.
Okay. I'm not familiar with the area since I'm in West Salem. Creekside looks like a main thoroughway for me. Is there a speed limit there? I have no idea what the traffic is like. Do they have bike lanes? Can you kind of describe what it's like?
Yeah, it's a local street. It does not have bike lanes on it, and so it's not. And I don't know what the speed limit on it. It is a private street. Maybe. Laurel Christian from Development Services is, I think, looking up that right now to see if it's possible to answer that question.
Okay. Sorry about all these.
That's fine.
I was curious from the diagram on Creekside, the south side where it's developed has sidewalks, right? And on the north side, there are a few homes there that have sidewalk, and then it stops.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Were those all built at the same time?
That was an earlier phase, and then this second phase came in afterwards, and then the homes on the south side of Creekside were constructed with the second phase, and then there was the variance request to allow the homes, allow the street rather to be built with just a sidewalk on the south side and not the north side, and part of that is like consideration that it was a fairway at that point. It was open space entirely. There weren't homes on the north side, but then you look at the subsequent phases of the PUD, they kept that same design, and so you have all those homes to the west that were on Inverness Street, had frontage on Inverness Street and Inverness Court. You had the homes on the south side of Creekside, they were more level with the street, so those have, access, with their garages to the street. There's a sidewalk on that south side, but all those ones on the north side, go back to the, this right here, so, oops, sorry. A little bit touchy. So all of these homes here that front on, they're double frontage lots. They front on Inverness, but they have their rear yards abutting Creekside Drive. There's no sidewalk along, this entire section of the development, from essentially, where this home with the red roof is, all the way to Lone Oak Road. There's no sidewalks because all of those homes are not facing the street, and they're generally up higher than the street. So that was like an established development pattern that was established with the planned unit development and carried forward. The no sidewalks on the north side.
Okay.
Oh, and to answer your question about the speed limit, it's 25 miles per hour.
No, it does. I'm looking, I'm saying, do they have a retaining wall then? I can't tell from the picture. It's okay.
It slopes up. It's a sloping, so if you look at the bottom here, this is the slope, from Creekside. It goes up at about, 30-degree angle or something. Well, can't tell exactly, but.
Okay, well, that helps a lot. I had this may seem like an odd question. Is there any chance that this local street could become public rather than private down the road?
It's been a private street from the outset. I wouldn't imagine that there's probably, well, I can't say never, but I don't know of any, conversations that are afoot to convert it to a public street at this time.
Okay. Well, I figured, yeah. Okay, and then lastly, thinking about safe routes to school, and I'm really glad that this is proposed for more housing. We definitely need more housing, but on this loop, Villa Loop, it has a sidewalk. How will students get to school from that loop? What sort of a route would they take?
Well, the nearest transit, not transit, but the school bus stop, based on a search of the school district bus stop locator, would be, north. I don't have it quite on this slide here. Let me see. It would be up on Mildred via Sawgrass, and so you'd have to go up and, into Inverness and then make your way up and around and hit Sawgrass and Mildred. So Mildred is way up here, and so based on the school district's bus stop map, they're saying that this is the nearest, elementary, middle, and high school bus stop for, this area. So you'd have to go a ways to the north using the existing, streets.
Okay, so you'd have to go down to Creekside and then over and then up if you were walking, whatever,
right.
Or even biking, I guess. Okay, thank you. Gives me a better idea.
Councillor Phillips.
Yeah, thank you. So I just want to kind of keep it simple as much as I can. So the original application was going to have that new street. Is it the Villa Loop?
Yep, Correct.
Yeah, and then on this, in the packet, it's like kind of color-coded. The red that goes, I think, north of the new housing, that's not in contention. That was going to be there regardless.
Correct.
And then I'm trying to understand like where the appeal comes in. So right now on the north side of the road, the Golf Club Road or whatever, there'll be a sidewalks where that's the condition 14 that the planning commission did, and it's on the south side of where the lots are going in.
Yes. So if you look on the screen here, so that it would just be on the. Oh, so this mouse is really sluggish, but it's starting. It would be here all the way on the north side.
3 through 11.
Yeah.
And
all the
then
way along the frontage.
Is it just a sidewalk, or is it like a sidewalk and a retaining wall? What is it?
That was one of the contentions and one of the questions. By having to put the sidewalk in and go 5 feet, which is the minimum sidewalk width into the hillside there's a question, and it's not designed. So I don't know if they can go 5 feet in and then maintain, unretained slope up towards where the homes are going to be. But if you have to, when you see the slope, let me go back to the. Let's see here. So if you were to, go from the edge of the curb and cut 5 feet in, obviously you're going up with land at an angle right up there. So you're going to have to cut into that, and either you're going to have to remove, soil uphill from that cut, so you level it so it's not so steep, or you'd have to put in a retaining wall to maintain like the existing elevation, but then hold back, the surcharge behind that new cut that you put into the hillside.
Okay, so I think I understand. The planning commission, the condition 14 is to get a sidewalk along the north side of the Golf Club Road, which is on the south side of lots 3 through 11. Is there any contention over the crosswalks proposed at either side of the Villa Lane or Villa Loop?
No, the Homeowners Association is in support of those.
The crosswalks are fine.
Yeah.
I feel like I had another question, but I mean, the planning. My question might not. I don't know if now is the right time to ask it or not. But at the risk of like going at an awkward timing. Did you have a comment in your introduction about like staff's thought of like the appropriateness of condition 14? Like where in the record would we see staff's interpretation of?
Well, our staff's original recommendation was we felt that the new sidewalk on Villa Loop plus those linkages of extending the sidewalk to connect to Villa Loop that met the requirements for an alternative street standard and met the requirements, but then. Either way, I think if that was approved as originally staff recommended without the sidewalk on the north side, or if this condition remains, either way, the proposed development in staff's perspective meets the criteria for the development.
So this is like, it's an understandable debate, but it's reasonable to go this way. I mean, it's not totally, it passes the muster test according to staff.
Yes.
Okay, but it was a new thing and there's some contention and cost. Okay, thank you. It just kind of helps me keep it simple.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Anyone? Oh, Councilor Gonzalez, please.
Yeah, thank you. So you shared that, you left the public review period open, and then they deliberated and decided to add condition 14. Like what, can you give us more information on why? I'm wondering why they would come back and ask for something like this, other than just, them feeling that there's an extra need for this. Like, well, can you give more detail on that?
Yeah, there's one person that's testified during the hearing that they thought, that sidewalks are a good thing, and they wanted to see that. I recall one person testifying to that. The Homeowners Association, has their opinion that's included in the record, for you tonight, which they feel that the proposal by the applicant otherwise meets it. So, it is, traditionally, streets have sidewalks on both sides, so this is kind of a departure, for that. And I think the Planning Commission wants to see, whenever possible that we have, sidewalks with streets on both sides because they meet the, the goals of the city to have good connectivity, safety, and all of that.
I understand that, and I just I don't see a reason why, but I'm trying to understand why they would, so I'm just.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Councilor Phillips.
Yeah, I think that's my colleague brought up a good point. So, I see that the Planning Commission voted 6-0 to, approve it as was approved and now is being appealed. So it was unanimous. They've only got 6 out of the 9 potential members because this decision was made before we added the 3 new people. You did mention that someone testified that they would like to see a sidewalk on the north side of the Golf Club Road, but on the south side of lots 3 through 11. Was there any other like discussion on like what were they using to in the planning commission, or what do you recall them talking about to like that prompted them to add that condition 14? Like, was it trying to maintain like a walkability thing that we've built into our goals and stuff?
Yeah, I think that's a very good assessment.
Okay.
Yes, Councilor Gwynn.
So, Bryce, I'm the city councilor that watches all the planning commission meetings, and I don't recall that as someone testifying. I recall one of the planning commissioners, it was important to them, but I don't recall anyone testifying that they wanted sidewalks other than that one person.
The majority, the majority of the discussion of the sidewalks on the north side, did come about during the deliberations, on August 20th. During the public hearing on August 6th, there was one community member. It was a lady who, testified, about, being in support of sidewalks and, on both, so.
So I just want to make sure that we are understanding this. The motion as written on staff recommendation is saying that we would want to have the sidewalk all along that north side with a retaining wall, most likely. And then if it is, if people vote nay, the sidewalks that are connecting are still required. I just want to make sure that I
Yeah, the
understand.
recommendation, if you were to vote in opposition or in support of the appellant, would be to remove condition 14. But then there's condition 15 in the decision that retains the linkages of the existing sidewalks on the north and south side to the new sidewalk in Villa Loop.
Great, thank you. I hope that clarifies. Do I move forward with closing or just? Yeah, okay. Are there any other questions for Bryce? All right. Now the applicant will get to speak, and I believe this is Margaret Ganderville.
That's right.
Thank you.
Oh, that's not the right one.
Can I help you?
Yeah, go for it.
Which one is it?
It's the PUD one. There we go. Good evening, City Councilors. My name is Margaret Ganderville. I'm the attorney for the applicant. My address for notice purposes is 250 Church Street, Suite 200, Salem, Oregon 97301. The applicant's focus of this appeal is condition of approval 14, which was added, in our opinion, in response to a planning commissioner's request and not really supported by any specific interest from any community member. There was a question early on in the hearing, on the initial hearing night, and the applicant worked with the HOA and that person in particular to explain why we hadn't initially proposed the addition of a sidewalk along the north side of Creekside Drive. So we just really want to focus on making sure that you understand what the negative externalities are that are associated with the addition of this condition. Originally, when we requested the alternative street standards, we agreed with staff's recommendation that the sidewalks would be constructed as you see here, where the green is the existing sidewalks, the yellow are the proposed to be constructed by the applicant, and then the red pedestrian connections would be provided. We feel that this is kind of the best setup for pedestrian connectivity in this area because it encourages crossings of pedestrians away from intersections and kind of guides them along the southern side of Creekside Drive where there is improved connectivity through the remainder of the PUD. We really want to emphasize that the reason that the PUD criteria and the PUD process exists in the code is for situations like this, where alternative standards make more sense for the community surrounding the proposed development. In this instance, there are kind of steep slopes along the entire north side of Creekside Drive, and as Bryce mentioned, these alternative standards are consistent with previous approvals in this area. So just kind of to answer some questions, because there is a lot of confusion in how this is kind of worded throughout the application and the applicant's statement. This is what we're going for, and the blue being added is what was proposed by condition 14. So all the applicant is requesting at this point is the removal of the requirement to construct this additional blue line along the north side of Creekside Drive. And our reason for proposing these alternative street standards are kind of several-fold. One, it is consistent with what is already in place in the area. This is when you go immediately past the proposed development. There are no sidewalks here. The topography is similar. At some areas in the proposed development, it's even steeper than what you see here. And this continues throughout the proposed development further along Creekside Drive. This image is a good encapsulation of what the proposed development will look like as the street trees that are proposed mature and kind of provide some shading over Creekside Drive. And this is just further north along what Bryce was talking about with the access points onto Inverness. The backside of it is even less sloped, but again, no sidewalks. This entire yellow line from the proposed development, which is the kind of red dot over on the right, through to Lone Oak intersection, there are no sidewalks along the north side. This really, developing the proposed condition 14 sidewalks really is building a sidewalk to nowhere. And we really want to emphasize that we want pedestrians to cross onto the south side of Creekside Drive if they're going to be continuing through the rest of the planned unit development. One thing we also wanted to discuss was the negative externalities for the proposed development that are associated with requiring the applicant to construct this sidewalk. As you can see here, kind of along the north side of Creekside Drive, it's a little faint, but you can see where the proposed trees are being developed, which are being planted, and the shading impact that they're going to have on Creekside Drive. This is one of the policy preferences outlined in the Climate Action Plan, where there are intentional mitigations taken to reduce some of the urban heat effect by providing more green space, more de-paved areas, and more street trees to provide mitigation for needed proposed developments. So we want to emphasize that not only are you not getting any benefit with these added public sidewalks, you're creating unintentional impacts that would otherwise be well served by the applicant's proposal. In addition to that, as Bryce mentioned, pushing the property line back 5 feet is going to increase the slope of the each of the lots, shrinking the developable area. It's feasible, but it is significantly more costly, increasing the development cost by about 13%, which for needed housing in our community is a significant cost. So our request is, when council sees conditions like this, which aren't providing a public benefit, we ask that you step in and act to support sensible, purposeful development in our community. I can answer any questions you might have at this point.
Are there any questions? Councilor Phillips.
Thank you. I'd asked staff earlier, but would that require a retaining wall? If you do a sidewalk with a slope there, are you going to have to build a wall?
No, we believe that we could manage it through grading.
Okay, and then do you have any sense of with or without a sidewalk, what is like the stormwater, addressing that? Is it different, worse, better? Like, what does that look like?
We would have to detain about 4,000 more square feet of impermeable surface, so it would require additional stormwater detention, additional filtration.
If the sidewalk.
If the sidewalk was
that requires more. That's part of the increase in cost.
Exactly.
Is you'd have to address it with. Okay. All right. Thank you for answering that.
Councillor Varney.
Thank you. I'm trying to think of the photo that was up there. Are there trees on the south side?
It's a curb-tight sidewalk, so there are some trees on the individual private properties, but on the south side of Creekside Drive, those are existing houses. And at the time, I don't believe street trees were required for them.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Phillips.
I forgot my second question. Thank you. You said PUD. For the audience listening at home, what does PUD stand for? I know what PUE stands for.
It's a planned unit development,
Okay.
so it really looks at kind of the big picture of the community. It plans for open space. It allows for flexibility in the application of codes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So do we ask if there's any other?
You can ask questions for staff.
Okay. Are there any additional questions for staff? Councillor Stapleton.
Thank you. I did have a question, and I'll ask it now out loud. I just went over and asked Brian privately, but I'll ask now. My question was that over this past year, the council has passed the 20 is Plenty campaign to reduce residential streets from 25 to 20. And my question was for staff is if this is a privately owned road network within this development, are they also going to be required to reduce their speeds to 20 and not 25? He did not have the answer for me, which is fine. But that's something that I'm thinking about right now and very interested if it were to move forward and we were to not have the sidewalks on the one side and only on the other. I wonder if this owner, I don't know how the hierarchy works within this. I don't belong to an HOA or any of that. I don't understand how it all works, but if they would be open to reducing the speeds along with the city in their residential areas, since I don't have any answers for that, that's just what's on my mind right now.
Would that be a staff question?
Can I say something?
Yes, go ahead, Councillor.
I'm actually very, very familiar with that area, and we already have, or there are calming measures there. There's speed humps all along Creekside Drive.
I thought there was something because isn't that where you and I went out for lunch that one time?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
It is.
Well, I guess we didn't eat.
What?
But anyway, we
didn't eat, but we went there. Yes.
Okay, thank you. It helps me, like others, like Varney was saying, when you're not familiar with the area, it's hard to get your head around the different challenges and benefits that are in the area. So thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Councillor Hoy.
Thank you. Just a comment. Did I hear correctly that these are duplexes?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, I just want to say thank you to the builder because we need the space. And that's not just 11 lots then, right? That's like 22 families. So thank you.
Any other questions? All right,
So now is the opportunity for the applicant to make rebuttal. I would ask if the applicant would reserve rebuttal just to the questions and commentary from council. Do you have 5 minutes?
I think just in response to the speed limit question, that would be a question for the HOA, so I don't think it would be appropriate to condition approval on that particular question. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? So,
You can close the hearing. Ask for a motion.
I'm now going to close the hearing. Do I hear a motion from Councillor Gwynn?
I guess I'm having an issue because I would move to remove the condition of those sidewalks.
Can I make a motion that we take a 5-minute break?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think we'll take a 5-minute break. Thank you for that break. So, do I have a motion?
Yes, I move staff recommendation with the removal of condition number 14.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Gwynn, seconded by Councillor Neudijk. Will the recorder please call?
Discussion.
Discussion again? Keep me in line here.
Councilor Gwynn goes first.
Any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Gwynn.
Speaking to my motion, so I am very, very familiar with this location and this property. My daughter and I walk it quite frequently with our dog. And knowing what I know about the subdivision and the area, to me, it really makes a lot more sense to have that connectivity to that, is it Village Loop? I can't remember the name of the loop, because then it connects down where the pedestrian path already is. So to me, it just makes more sense to have that without the sidewalks on that north side.
Councillor Neudijk.
Thank you so much. So I am seconding the motion for a couple of reasons. First of all, the HOA's comment is a part of the public record. And considering these are the folks who live there, I take seriously the input of local neighbors when it comes to considerations like this. And they have written in detailed testimony about condition 14. And so if you look at the public testimony that they submitted, they said, quote, "The HOA does not believe that the addition of sidewalks between the access points along the north side of Creekside Drive will provide a benefit to the HOA, but they will add costs, as the HOA will be the party responsible for the long-term maintenance of these sidewalks." They go on to describe the fact that they are comfortable with the proposal to add the connectivity to Villa Loop, as Councillor Gwynn mentioned, and then they ultimately conclude, signed by their HOA, Creekside Homeowners Association President Tom Cowan, saying the Creekside HOA supports the applicant's application, including its request to remove condition of approval 14. So that's important to me. I too have been in the Creekside area, not as often as Councillor Gwynn, and certainly not as often as the people who live there. But I think it's also compelling that there's no sidewalk along that north side already, but there is a well-established sidewalk plus speed humps, at least one that I saw on when you look at it on Google Maps. The other thing, the applicant mentioned a 13% cost increase. That's huge. And I worry that that 13% cost increase could be passed on to the people who are looking for a place to live in South Salem, the best part of the city. So, I mean, all jokes aside though, I mean, that 13% cost increase is significant. And it's not every day that a space like this becomes available in the Creekside area. It is a very desirable neighborhood. It has great schools, great parks, great amenities. So I don't want to create a condition that adds a lot more cost without a clear benefit from the neighbors themselves. So that's the main reason why.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Phillips.
Oh, I'm right on the fence with this one. Thank you, Chair. So I think I'm going to be voting against the motion, but I do think this is one of those that's like a close call. The Planning Commission did vote unanimously to add this condition after their process, and I've advocated for a long time that I think that more of these things should go through our Planning Commission. So in part, in solidarity for the work that they've already done, I'm inclined to kind of stick with them. But it's challenging because nobody here tonight is really speaking to the point of view of maintaining that condition. So I don't know that my opposition is that strong, but I can, a lot of compelling arguments were made that maybe I'm voting incorrectly. But I do think, in general, adding to our walkable network, it's not an easy slam dunk that like by having fewer sidewalks that you're meeting climate action goals. I mean, I think having some additional walkability there, it's nice to have sidewalks on either side of your house. So this is a tough one, but I think because the Planning Commission has already thought about it, and I'm just concerned that there's a voice that's not in the room tonight, I'll be voting no, but I'm not super strong or confident in that decision.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Stapleton, her hand was up first.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your comments and for the presentations, both from staff and from the applicant. Really helpful in how I look at this. And, a lot of people might be surprised that I agree with Councillor Gwynn, that I think, I think a lot of times when we think about sustainability, we think about really interconnected, multimodal transportation systems within our system or system-wide. And I do agree with that, but I also have to say that what makes sense should often prevail over the lofty dreams. And when we look at this development, to see that it is going to be, if it is built, it is going to be just a loop for that one thing and then to cross over to the other side. I have often said in private that we cannot buy our way out of climate change, and I kind of feel like this is one of those nods to more. I don't know if I'm making any sense to anybody right now, but we can't, we have to look at this and say there is a climate cost to building this. And if we have the infrastructure in place across the street, and not a busy street, but a street that is that does have lower speeds, that does have other precautions to help slow people down, that will have crosswalks in both of these spaces, which I'm really happy to see. I would really hope that the HOA does move forward with reducing the speeds when the rest of the city does, to help kind of with how we all work within and drive within our residential areas. But I have to say that I agree with Councillor Gwynn, although Councillor Phillips, your argument is also compelling. We do have a planning commission for a reason, and I do really respect the work that they do. But I think on this one, I land with Councillor Gwynn.
I believe Councillor Varney had her hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm on the fence with this one quite a bit. Safety to me is the big issue with this. Safety and then the connectivity. I mean, I think of all the infrastructure bond meetings we have and all the infill we do and filling in the little spaces so people can walk. So I really feel that we need to have a sidewalk there. Living in West Salem with all the hills, I was trying to think of a similar situation. And we have sidewalks on both sides on the majority of our streets, whether we have hills, whether we don't have hills. So I guess that's not a great comparison, but that's just what I'm used to. I like the idea that there are going to be trees planted along that north side. But then I think of parking lots and where do people park? Everybody wants to go and be under a tree, and that's gonna, people want to walk where there's shade rather than there isn't shade. And so one of my big concerns is if we have a lot of trees there and it's all shady along there, people are going to walk along there than on the other side because it's going to be shady. I mean, it's going to keep getting warmer and warmer, and that concerns me. The other thing, we've had a lot of fatalities this year, and so of course safety and speed is a real concern of mine. Yeah, I'm just worried about people walking along that instead of deciding to cross the road and go down and then cross back over.
It's not that long a section, and I'm not sure people are going to do that. So I will not be supporting it.
Thank you. I believe Councillor Hoy, you had.
Thank you. Good memory. To Councillor Stapleton's point, sometimes we have to do what makes the most sense, I think. And I deal with a sidewalk in front of my home and have for 15, 20 years that goes to nowhere. And it's frustrating. We paid $25,000 more because we were required to put a sidewalk in there. I believe with all my heart that one day we will connect to something, but we don't right now. And I would hate to see a sidewalk that connects to nothing be paid for, bringing up the cost of the build, which will be handed down to the homeowner or renter. And I would just hate to see that happen. Mostly, I want to give the appearance of, fiduciary, responsible things that we're doing in Salem that build that kind of trust that we need with the citizens. So I'm going to be voting to amend. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Stapleton.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to add that if there were sidewalks on the other side, this would be a no-brainer for me, right? And I think that everybody I see some heads nodding like, right, that makes sense. I also wanted to point out what Councillor Nordyke said about the HOA really looking forward to a future of having to maintain that. And every time that we build infrastructure, we are building in the cost to maintain that in the future. And so I love that conversation was brought into this. And when we look at what we're doing as a city and how we're building out, the cost of maintaining that in the future is going to land on us, the taxpayers. And so I think it's a really, really great point that they brought up. And thanks for allowing me to comment again.
Welcome. Councillor Gonzalez.
I'm going to be supporting Councilor Gwyn's motion. I want to thank the developers for taking a risk in this climate. I want to thank the city staff for for them to get to this point. It's a lot of time and negotiation. So I thank them too. They did a really good job, and I still don't see why the Planning Commission would have. There's no real reason, in my opinion, or to waste this much of everybody's time on something that I thought was good initially. So, thank you.
Thank you. I think that the only thing I came into this meeting, having read this, I was concerned about walking to school and thinking that the additional sidewalk would benefit that. But with the presentation and clear showing demonstrating the pedestrian crossings and where the school was really helped me. And with I'm good with making sure that those sections are put in place. I also, as Councillor Hoy said, I have sidewalk in front of my house. Nobody else does, just me. And it's like, okay, I don't walk very far because there's no connectivity. And a lot of people walk in my neighborhood, and I know it would be nice to have it, but that means people would have to give up property. So it's a tough go. And I struggle. I came in believing that I would vote in favor of the recommendation with requiring the sidewalk because I feel that we do need to put sidewalks in. But the presentation and the applicant's information did change my mind, so I will be voting in favor of this. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councillor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councillor Varney.
Nay.
Councillor Stapleton.
Aye.
Council President Nishioka.
Aye.
Councillor Phillips.
Nay.
Councillor Gwyn.
Aye.
Councillor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councillor Hoy.
Aye.
And Mayor Hoy is absent. Thank you.
The motion passes. All right. We're moving on to 4C. Everybody gets to move around.
The Salem City Council will now conduct a public hearing regarding Supplemental Budget 1 for unanticipated expenses in the General Fund, Equipment Replacement Reserve Fund, and Emergency Services Fund. The hearing will be conducted with staff presentation, followed by other interested persons. Individuals testifying are limited to 3 minutes. Thank you.
We have Josh Ingelston here, our CFO, for a presentation. Thank you very much.
Good evening, councilors. Josh Eggleston, Chief Financial Officer. There are multiple components to the supplemental budget before you this evening, which I'll be going over in detail. Overall, the supplemental budget increases expenditure authority in the general fund, equipment replacement reserve fund, and also moves spending between categories in the emergency service or EMS fund. To begin with the general fund, the police department has been awarded 4 external grants, 2 from the state via the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission and 2 from the federal government via the U.S. Department of Justice. The 2 grants from the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission will be for organized retail theft prevention and Project Safe Neighborhoods. The 2 grants from the federal government will provide trauma-informed training related to domestic violence and allow funding for police outreach as part of the Building Trust with Community program. This budget action will recognize the increase in this grant revenue and allow for the expenditure of the dollars. Continuing in the general fund, the Public Works Department has also been informed of a reimbursable grant related to the Climate Action Plan implementation efforts. The grant will come from the U.S. Department of Energy and will be used on consultant work to create an energy master plan, conduct rapid assessments for municipal facilities, and provide funding options for recommended implementation changes. This budget action will again allow for recognition of this grant and the offsetting expenditure. In the Emergency Services Fund, you're very familiar with the action, but just to really quickly go through it, in May, the City Council approved an internal loan between the Building and Safety Fund and the Emergency Services Fund for capital expenditures associated with the implementation of ambulance service by the Salem Fire Department. For this action, we're adding debt service category to the Emergency Services Fund. So in Oregon budget law, you have to actually hold a public hearing when you're adding a category to a fund, which is why we're here for this particular expense. There's no additional expenditure authority. We're just moving it from one category to another. And this debt service is to pay that internal loan from Building and Safety to the Emergency Services Fund for purchase of capital equipment. And finally, the Equipment Replacement Reserve Fund needs additional expenditure authority for the Police Department. The Salem Police Foundation has informed the Police Department they will be providing a donation which will pay for the chassis of the new bomb truck planned for purchase next fiscal year. The chassis will be purchased in the current fiscal year using this donation. As this was not a known donation or expenditure during budget development, additional budget authority is needed to complete the chassis purchase this year. In conclusion, staff is requesting the adoption of resolution number 2024-44, which will complete the budget actions described in this presentation. And one more tiny piece of context, we'll be discussing the ambulance service and additional transfers in the next staff report in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Any questions from anyone? Councilor Phillips.
Thank you, and thank you, Josh, for the presentation tonight. With these new grants that I'm wholeheartedly in support of, is it best to look at these as like one-time sources of funding, or is this something that like could offset, operational costs, like ongoing?
Yeah, I really appreciate the question because that's where my mind goes as well. So one-time grants should always be for one-time expenses, which is what these grants are. So either consultant services, one-time equipment purchases, things like that.
Okay, so it's not something, it doesn't seem like it would be good accounting practices or financial management to use it to pay for FTEs.
That is correct, and generally it wouldn't be an allowed use of the grant. They're for specific purposes.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? We did not have anybody sign up for comments on this. Do I hear a motion?
I move staff recommendations.
Second.
I'm sorry, we need to close the hearing as well.
Oh, thank you. I will get it eventually. I close the hearing. Thank you.
I move staff recommendations.
So I have a motion by Councillor Stapleton, a second by Councillor Phillips. Is there any further discussion?
Good job, staff.
Recorder, will you please call the roll?
Councillor Varney.
Aye.
Councillor Stapleton.
Aye.
Council President Nishioka.
Aye.
Councillor Phillips.
Heck yes.
Councillor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councillor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councillor Hoy.
Aye.
Councillor Nordyke.
Aye.
And Mayor Hoy absent.
The motion passes. Thank you. All right. We are now on to special order of business. 5A, a transfer of appropriations for the addition of 60 new full-time employees for medical, emergency medical services and one FTE for the general fund. Josh Ingelston will present the staff report.
Thank you very much. Again, good evening, councilors. Josh Eggleston, Chief Financial Officer. I'll be doing the initial piece of the presentation, then I'm going to turn it over to the fire department to provide additional context and an update on the implementation. The first piece, to support the hiring and onboarding of the 60 new emergency services position, one additional position with an estimated cost this fiscal year of $102,950 is needed by the Human Resources Division of the Enterprise Services Department and the General Fund. The cost of this General Fund position will be reimbursed by the Emergency Services Fund through a transfer. As we've gone through this implementation phase, we've discussed supporting the internal services. This is the first need for the emergency medical services. As you can imagine, onboarding these 60 new positions, this HR position will support that, and it is fully reimbursed by the Emergency Services Fund. The second piece is a little more complex. In May of 2024, City Council authorized a loan from the Building and Safety Fund to the EMS Fund in the amount of $6 million. While the Building and Safety Fund has sufficient fund balance to make the loan, it does not have sufficient budget authority to transfer the funds to the EMS Fund. The Equipment Replacement Reserve Fund has excess budget appropriation that can be transferred to the Building and Safety Fund to allow the Building and Safety Fund to transfer the loan to the EMS Fund. So we're kind of moving a few things around here to make the loan possible, to make sure we can pay for the ambulances when they arrived. Just due to the timing of when the loan was authorized, it didn't allow us enough time to get the change before the Budget Committee, and the City Council couldn't make the change at the time of more than 10%, which is why we're coming to you with this transfer request. In conclusion, we'd like you to adopt Resolution 2024-42, authorizing the appropriation transfers in the Equipment Replacement Reserve, Building Safety Fund, and Emergency Services Fund. And with that, I'll turn it over to the fire department for any, and I'll have any questions at that time.
Good evening, City Manager Staley, Council President Nishioka, and all council members, and thank you for having me tonight. David Gerboth, Fire Chief. I'm joined by Deputy Fire Chief Brian Carrera and Deputy Fire Chief Kyle Asbury as well. I'm excited to discuss this generational opportunity to enhance services in Salem. Your vote tonight goes beyond improving ambulance service. It's about creating a stronger, more resilient fire department that will benefit our community for decades. As you consider this item, I'd like to emphasize three key points. One is budget neutrality. This initiative will not impact the general fund. The ambulance service's revenue and expenses will operate with a separate, self-sustaining enterprise fund. Second is strengthening our fire department. This move will significantly bolster our department's capabilities. The ambulance service will remove barriers to entry, allowing us to recruit a diverse workforce with varied backgrounds and skills, and serve as an excellent recruitment tool for the future vacancies. And third, reinvestment in services. Any revenue generated from this service won't become shareholder profits. Instead, it will be reinvested to enhance our system, benefiting every resident and visitor to Salem. I'm going to ask Deputy Fire Chief Brian Carrera to come up and talk about some of the details. We'll both be here to answer questions tonight, and I want to thank you all for supporting this critical initiative.
Good evening, City Manager, Council President Nishioka, and City Councilors. I'm Deputy Chief Brian Carrera, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. This presentation provides kind of an overview of the EMS transition progress and the progress that we've made within Salem Fire Department and the city, including key milestones, our current update to our progress, and what we have planned to move toward full deployment. 8 months ago, the City Council approved this transition, and since then, our team has been working hard to get where we are today. The transition became necessary to Falk's failure to meet the city's minimum service requirements. Falk has only met the required 1030 deployment hours twice in the last 78 weeks. That means a 2.5%. They've only met the standard 2.5% of the time. As a result, the city has had to cover significant costs. We spent $417,000 in the month of July and August. And then if you go back, dating back to 21-22, so far we spent $4.85 million in overtime costs. That's a lot of money to spend in overtime. That totals well just under 100,000 man hours. 100,000 man hours on the people that work for the fire department to be able to deploy an ambulance to support Falk Ambulance. So we are in tune to spend $2.5 million this year alone in additional revenue to support Falk Ambulance, which is going to total $7 million in revenue that the city is spending to do that. So you've blessed us to be able to move forward with this process, right? So we've established an EMS steering committee. We've hired a consultant, AP Triton, to stay on for the last 8 more months of this transition, and we have an external oversight committee to make sure that we're doing everything we need to do for deployment in July of 2025. So, key accomplishments. Despite significant progress, we still have a lot of work to do. We're currently in the process of hiring 22 paramedics and 30 EMT basics. We have well over 250 applicants for 52 positions. That shows that the city has put their best foot forward to pay a living wage and give a good work-life balance to their employees. On top of that, we're here to get your approval to be able to borrow the $6 million for the startup costs, to buy the ambulances and the other essential equipment that we need to be able to stand up and do this endeavor. I'd like to note that also the bonded ambulances, we're going to buy 10 additional ambulances with this borrowing. We have 2 other ambulances coming that were purchased on bonded funds. We've also secured a facility in conjunction with the airport from Public Works to give us 2,900 square foot of space to be able to operate this endeavor. As for the next steps, the recruitment process is going to close October 21st, and then training will be set to begin in winter of 2025 with deployment scheduled for July 1, 2025. We are also actively working on resource management, an improved billing process, and supply management systems. Now to address the financial side. $6 million in starter capital is, again, not a small amount of money, which will cover the purchase of 10 additional ambulances, radios, cardiac monitors, and other essential equipment. This funding is critical, ensuring we stay on track for deployment. The capital will be repaid through a 10-year loan, annual debt payments of approximately $665,000, if approved. With the bonded ambulances already paid for, these additional units will ensure that we have a fully equipped fleet ready for service. In conclusion, as we move steadily forward to our goal of full EMS deployment, tonight's approval is the key step in the process. Once secured, we'll be well positioned to move forward with our hiring, training, and purchase of all the equipment. While I've made great progress over the last 8 months, there's still a lot of work to be done. And I want to thank the 10 departments that have been instrumental in what we've done. We've had us, Salem Fire, we've had HR, budget, fleet, dispatch, radio shops, facilities, IT, public works, airport, and legal. So all these decisions that we've made and all the work that we've done has not been done in a vacuum. It's been in conjunction with every department within the city. Thank you for your time and pending your questions.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. Appreciate all of that information. Are there any questions for staff on this? Councilor Phillips.
Thank you. I'm not sure to whom on staff my question is directed. It's more kind of like my plan is to paraphrase what I think is about to happen and then see who wants to comment to verify or correct or clarify anything I get wrong. I'm wholeheartedly in support of the move. I mean, I think we've started down this road unanimously. I hope that we get there exactly on time. It's very encouraging, all the things I've heard from staff so far. But just like help the community understand, like the EMS fund is totally distinct from the general fund, and that is it gets funding through being able to bill people who are transported, and it's not something that property taxes really supplement. It's its own fund, right?
That's correct, and those funds are approved by council every June. So
the hope is that not the hope, but the plan and what we're doing here is approving a loan, but that fund that's self-funded would pay back the $6 million over 10 years.
That's correct, and we've worked on the 5-year forecast. So if you look at the 5-year forecast that we presented to the Finance Committee, this fund will build additional revenue and not profit. It's money to be able to reinvest back in the community, correct? So at first year, we should have a $3 million positive balance. At year 2, $9 million. Year 3, $15 million. So when you talk about the $10 million loan and we have a $665,000 payment that's going to be done every year, our goal is to hopefully pay that loan off quicker so we're not paying the interest that's due every year as well.
And you alluded to that's a perfect transition. What kind of interest is this done? I mean, this is a technical process to move the numbers around so that the city is made whole, and this doesn't cost the taxpayers anything. It comes through the EMS fund. But how does that work in terms of borrowing cost? Is this 1% interest, 2%, 0 interest? How does that work?
Yeah, really appreciate the question. So actually, it's somewhat of a variable rate. So it's a 0.5 percentage point over the city's combined investment portfolio. So what the idea is that, for example, the Building Safety Fund has these dollars sitting in investments. So we're earning interest on them. So in order to borrow that, there needs to be an advantage. So we do a 0.5 percentage point over those investment earnings for the borrowing fund, and that's recalculated annually.
So there's a nominal interest that goes with this, but that's just to make sure we're not having an opportunity cost for not having it invested somewhere else?
Yes, that's correct. And it's to give the receiving fund, in this case the Building and Safety Fund, the investment earnings they would have got in any case, plus that 0.5% premium.
And it can be paid back earlier if the revenues collected through the EMS fund are more robust than anticipated.
Yeah. No prepayment penalties here.
Okay. All right, thank you. I don't know, we don't have a motion yet, do we? Okay, never mind.
Councilor Stapleton.
Thank you so much. I had a quick question about the lost revenue due to Falck not being able to hold up their end of the contract.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything in the contract that would allow the city of Salem to recoup those losses?
We've looked at that, but we've evaluated it month after month, but we found out that we would just be putting them more and more into dire straits than they already are. So at that time, the fire chief decided not to pursue that.
Okay. And then when we make this change, how will the residents of Salem and the visitors here, how will they see an increase in service? Will we see a decrease in the amount of time it's taking to get to critical patients, or are we not going to see maybe an increase in service? Does my question make sense?
Yes, ma'am. So if you look at what the requirement for Falk is, the minimum requirement is 10,030 hours, correct? So that's up to 10 ambulances every day at our peak deployment, and down to 3 ambulances at night. So when we looked at the deployment, try to match that plus. So our deployment will be 10,080 hours. So you have 5 24-hour cars, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and then you have 3 day cars that are deployed throughout the system. And those day cars are 1 ALS unit and 2 BLS units. So yes, we will provide the service because for us, it's not a matter of profit. And if somebody calls in sick, we have the ability to mandate individuals, and they don't get to go home because we will put a butt in the seat. On top of that, as a fire department, we have 165 paramedics that are ready to deploy on the side that work on engines. So we do have the ability to be able to mandatory. So we will always deploy 1,080 hours every week. On top of that, though, we also look at the system, and we're looking at software that will allow us the ability to grow. So if the system is requiring that we need to deploy more ambulances, we will come back to council, and we can have the ability to do that, because if the revenue is there, it pays for the people. Remember, we're not a profit-driven company.
Right.
So our goal is to provide a service to the community. And if the community demands it because they're calling more 911, then we will provide the service that's needed.
Yeah, and I'm hopeful that over the next couple of years, as the program goes live, that we're going to be able to see those numbers, right, reflect in our ability to get to people faster and,
Yes, ma'am.
and provide better service and care for the folks here in Salem.
It's all about improving care.
Thank you.
Councillor Phillips.
Yeah, thank you. I was debating whether or not I'd save this for deliberation, but I think I'll just put out my paraphrase now. I mean, I think that you've clearly laid out how, only a couple weeks out of 70-some weeks, that 2% of the time they've met their contractual obligation for hours provided. We will immediately, the proposal is that you'll do a little bit more than what they were supposed to do at 1080 instead of 1030. And the benefit to the community of that consistency, it's not just to the people, most people, they would interface with it as somebody who needs a family member or themselves, brought to the emergency room or transferred. As a healthcare provider in our emergency room, I guess my question is, can you guys think of a way to help the community understand when we get stressed and we don't have available medics to do transfers to other hospitals? Like in the last couple of years, we've had some tight spots that it feels like this has played a part in. So I feel very encouraged moving in this direction. It'll give the system a better ability to respond to the need for those transfers up to Portland or somewhere else.
Yes, sir. On top of that, though, we are also looking at the IFTs, interfacility transfer. So currently, Falk does not have a contract with Kaiser or with Salem Health. So our goal is to improve that continued care through contracts with Salem Health and Kaiser. We just met with Kaiser last week, and it was a great, productive conversation. So with those contracts, it gives us the ability to plan for the staffing with whatever they're going to need, because they have they have the ability to predict how many transfers they're going to do every day. And remember, interfacility transfers gives us guaranteed revenue on with those contracts. So that's another ability. It's another line that we've not had with Falk Ambulance. So.
Councillor Hoy.
Thank you. Just simply put, I'm sure this is an easy answer for you, but what stood out to me a great deal was the amount of overtime that we had to pay.
Yes, ma'am.
How will we avoid that? How will things be different and we won't have that expense?
Well, when we built the current budget, remember we talked about work-life balance. So there will be guaranteed overtime. There's no way around it because we're going to put somebody in the seat, right? But we estimated that it's going to be about $1.6 million in guaranteed overtime for the current group. Now, that is because it's minimum staffing. We're on the current schedule. I don't want to confuse everybody, but we're operating a 4-shift system. So we have to pay them anything over 40 hours overtime. So if you work a 24-hour car, you will get paid 2 hours of overtime every time you work every week. So there will be some overtime, but not in the tune of $7 million. So it's our $2.5 million is currently what we're paying right now for overtime for one medic. One medic. We will have 8 medics at $1.6 million in overtime. So it's a substantial decrease in cost and an overall better service. You're welcome.
Any other questions? So my final comments were, what I heard was it won't have any impact on the general fund, that it will strengthen the fire department, and it will open opportunities that we don't even know yet. Quite honestly, I feel that there will be opportunities that may come forth, and that you've already got, what was it, 182 applicants?
250.
Oh my goodness, for 52. That is
That's
amazing.
an amazing number.
Amazing.
We haven't seen that in years.
That is fantastic. Councillor Stapleton.
Sorry, you brought up one more question that I have. We were talking about how this doesn't have any negative impact on the general fund.
Yes, ma'am.
Does it have a positive impact? My question being that if this is a model where it can be self-sustaining, does it alleviate pressure on the general fund, or could it?
That I don't think so, because it's an enterprise fund. So
Okay.
it does not affect the general fund dollars.
Okay, thanks.
All right, if there aren't any further questions, do I hear a motion?
Yes. I move that the council adopt resolution number 2024-42, authorizing a transfer of $6,102,950 in appropriation within the city's fiscal year 2025 budget, as well as adding 60 FTE, that's full-time equivalent positions, in the Emergency Services Fund and 1 full-time equivalent position in the General Fund.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Stapleton, seconded by Councillor Phillips. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Nordheim.
This is a real no-brainer, and I will be voting yes.
Thank you. Councillor Gwynn.
Well, and I, of course, will be voting yes. I'm very excited about it. I just did a ride-along recently with Engine 3. I plan to be there for about 6 hours, but so in the first hour and a half, we had 4 calls for service. They were all medical calls. On 3 of the 4, we arrived before the ambulances did. So I'm just very excited to move forward with this, and I know our firefighters will do a great job. I'm also, one of the things that I asked so there were, typically there's 3 on a truck. There were 4 because Station 3 is the training, so we had a probie. So there were 5 of us on that truck. And so I had an opportunity to ask the guys, I said, so what's it really like? And they do get called out for mandatory overtime quite a bit. I looked at the captain that was there that night. His eyes were bloodshot. I said, how long have you been on shift? And he had been there for several days and had another shift that he had to run. And they weren't complaining, not at all. I mean, they want to be there for our community. So I just feel like as counselors, we need to do whatever we can to support and help them. So,
thank you. Councillor Phillips.
Yeah, I agree with all my colleagues. Thank you. This is a no-brainer. It really feels like that. I want to commend staff, fire department, everybody who worked on this, all the different departments. This seems like a really good opportunity for a variety of reasons that we can really grow, this community service within its own enterprise fund and get a lot more bang for the buck. I think that, there's a saying that if you do the same thing over and over again, expect different results. It might be the definition of insanity. So I think that this was good that we identified a problem, found a great solution, and I really look forward to seeing the impact and benefit in our community in the not too distant future, next summer in July. So I'm looking forward to voting yes.
Councillor Stapleton.
Thank you. I agree with all of my colleagues. Of course, this is a no-brainer and very easy for us. We have been long supporters of the Salem Fire Department and doing everything that we can. I feel like ever since I got on council, it really has been focused on how do we support especially our emergency services, and especially as we head towards our fiscal cliff and the devastating cuts that are to come for our city. Councillor Gwynn, your comments about, bloodshot eyes and folks who are really pouring out their heart and soul for our community, and how can we better support them, and to know that we have really put it all on the line to get 2 new fire stations in the bond, to get all new apparatus included in that bond, and to do this amazing work of bringing in EMS to our services. And to know that we're not going to be able to add more firefighters to our general fund in order to support all of this good work that we're doing. I feel like we're building all of this infrastructure and we're not able to fund it with the people because it is about the people who run these services. We can build new fire stations and we can buy new apparatus. We can change, all of this paperwork behind the scenes and change how we do the day-to-day running of our fire department, EMS. But at the end of the day, if we can't find revenue to hire more professionals to run these services for our residents and our community members, it's really all for nothing. I am really encouraged by the work that has been done so far on this. So many times that I've been on council, we have asked the moon of staff, and they have consistently just provided amazing service to this council and in that sense to the community time and time again. So I am constantly floored and humbled by the work of our city employees to really provide an amazing service to our community. I am really, really frustrated. I don't know if I can say angry, but I'm really angry about the lost revenue to Falck. And I think I'm angry because I know that with a lot of these for-profit companies, whether they do bankruptcy or whatever it is, the people who made all this money off of this contract, they're going to be just fine. They're going to be just fine. And we're stuck with bloodshot eyes on our fire department staff and not able to meet the needs of our community to the extent that we want to. A lot of people know that I lost my mom last year. She had a heart attack. My dad called 911, and it took him almost 10 minutes to get to her, and she died. And I don't want that for anybody else. And just as pure governance, as people who are governing the city, we got to do better than that. We have to. And this conversation also overlaps with our police department as well. And so, this is kind of the basic of what we counselors and us as a government provide to our residents, emergency services. And I'm thrilled that we're moving in this direction, and I am heartbroken that I can't follow through and get them everything that they need.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Varney.
Thank you. I'm very supportive of this. I wanted to say thanks to all the staff, fire department, everybody for answering my many questions, and I really appreciate the transparency as we've worked with the Oversight Committee and then the Finance Committee and then bringing things here. So anyway, I just really appreciate it, and I'm very supportive of it. Thank you.
All right, I think that is ready for a roll call. Thank you.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Council President Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Heck yes.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Councilor Nordijk.
Aye.
Councilor Varney.
Aye.
And Mayor Hoy absent.
The motion passes. Thank you again. I am so excited about this. Thank you again. All right, we're on to information reports. I will read each title, but I have a hand for Councilor Nordijk.
Thank you so much. I'll be declaring a potential conflict of interest with regard to 6A because my nonprofit is considering entering into a lease agreement at the property identified in 6A. Thank you.
Thank you for making that announcement. All right, so 6A is 24-418, Planning Administrator Decision to Consolidate 5 existing lots. Approved. 6B, 24-421, Planning Administrator's Decision, a partition of a property into the 3-parcel flag lot. Approved. 6C, 24-397, Hearing Officer's Decision, Proposed Conditional Use Permit, Class 2 Adjustment to allow a residential care facility serving up to 12 persons. Approved. Item 6D, 24-398, hearing officer's decision, proposed conditional use permit and property line adjustment to allow a residential care facility serving up to 15 persons. Approved. 6E, 24-401, hearing officer's decision, proposed conditional use for a new industrial storage yard with gravel surfacing. Approved. And 6F, Councillor Gwynn.
On 6F, I move to call up item 6F for a public hearing before City Council.
Second it.
It's been moved by Councillor Gwynn and seconded by Councillor Gonzalez to call this for a public hearing. To your motion?
So I don't know if you all remember Giovanna Reyes, I think was her name, came and spoke before City Council in a public comment about her father's business on Silverton Road, which is an automobile repair shop. And so my biggest concern with this is the requirement, or the hearings officer was limiting the hours of operation, so when the public can come to their facility, to the time period of 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 8 p.m., I can't remember. But it just struck me that when I take my car in for service, I call the auto repair shop, I make my appointment, I take my car in the morning before I go to work. So I drop my car off between 7 and 8 a.m. in the morning, not at 10 a.m. And so I feel pretty strongly that we need to really take a second look at this.
May I? Yeah. So, Councillor Stapleton.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Has the owner of this business, have they reached out to anybody to ask for this to be changed?
I don't know. I talked to our planning administrator, though. I talked to Lisa, and she actually, when I called her this morning and asked her this afternoon and talked to her about it, she thought that it was a typo, that the hours were earlier. So maybe Lisa could speak to that. It was also indicated that perhaps there's a language barrier, and that the applicant or the owner of the property might not. Anyway, Lisa, did you want to?
Sure. Lisa Anderson Ogilvie, your planning administrator. At the hearing, the applicant stated their hours of operation were 10 to 8, but today when I reached out to the representative, it seems like perhaps that's not exactly what they meant, and they do have some concerns with the hours that are listed.
Okay, thank you. And in order to fix that, we would need to have this called up and have a public hearing.
We would need to have a public hearing if we want to change conditions, yes.
Perfect. And will we have interpreters for that? I mean, how do we fix that
Yes, if they
problem?
request it. We provided an interpreter at the last hearing as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Councillor Phillips.
My question would be, can we request an interpreter be available in case it's helpful? I mean, we may not end up using their services, but could we just, it sounds like we should have them here, like an interpreter available.
Yeah, I believe the applicant will request it. They did last time, and we provided an interpreter last time.
I mean, my follow-up question is just, it sounds like even if they don't request it, my point as a member of council would be, we should have an interpreter available, and then if they don't need them, like, that would be okay with me. I would rather have them here than not here. If we're going to have a public hearing.
That's fine. We can ensure that we have an interpreter.
That's what I would recommend.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the one question, Lisa, if you don't mind staying for a moment, I had one question, is that, there's a lot of automobile services that have key drops. So their hours may be that a certain time period, but people can certainly drop their car off and their keys off. So that would be something I would be interested in knowing if part of their decision was that they're going to be there from 10 to 8, but that there are opportunities for people to drop their car off. I think that would be important to know when we have the public.
Yeah, I think the applicant can provide more information at the hearing. There was a lot of discussion about when they were able to work on cars versus when the public could come. And so most of the discussion is about when are you going to work on cars and what would be the noise related to that. And so that's why you kind of have a two-part condition, one for working on cars and one for when they're going to be open. And so I think the hours that stated when they can work on the cars, they're agreeable to. And I think there was just some kind of confusion about when they would actually be open to the public. And although they told the hearings officer 10 to 8, I now understand that that's maybe not what they meant to say.
So I have one more question. If for the public hearing, how quickly, is there some time limit, or do we need to do this quickly so that we're not interfering with any?
We have time in the 120-day till January. The applicant's representative said they would also give an extension if needed. And then we will schedule a hearing at least 20 days out from tomorrow. We need that much time to send notice, so probably in November, if that works for the applicant and their representative, November, December or something. So we have time, though.
That's helpful information. I think there's a couple other questions. I think Councilor Hoy.
Thank you. Just wondering where the concern for noise is coming from?
If I can interrupt for a moment, we want to get away from ex parte contacts and having deliberations regarding the substance of the land use application right now. If you have questions just about the call-up process, that would be a good time to do that now.
Thank you. Thank you. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Council President Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Councilor Norday. Aye. Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy absent.
The motion passes. All right, I shall continue. 6G, 24-419, Hearing Officer's Decision, Development of the Truitt Brothers Cannery Site as a Mixed-Use Neighborhood. Yay! Comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm really excited about this, and I'm hoping to get to a point in time where I can be super excited about this just in public.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you. And do stop me if I read and you wanted to make a comment. 6H, 24-415, Salem Police Foundation donation to help fund, oh, sorry, thank you.
No, I just wanted to say, let's get them whatever they need. I don't know if anybody remembers the Woodburn Bank. Bill Hakeem, who was an Oregon State Trooper, his wife did work for our office, and I can't help but think about Bill when I think about that bomb truck, so glad to support it.
Thank you. I'll finish. Salem Police Foundation donation to help fund the bomb truck replacement. And 6I, 24-392, purchases approved administratively from August 1st, 2024 through August 31st, 2024. 6J, 24-417, summary of recent activity and progress on the 2022 voter-approved safety and livability bond measure. Councilor Stapleton?
Yeah, I didn't have anything on the bond measure, but I did want to, I was going through our informational reports today, and I was just noticing how many decisions are being made by our hearings officer and our staff here in our planning department. And I just wanted to say thank you for all of your hard work. I know that in a housing crisis that we are in, it is critical that applications can come in and get processed in a timely manner and get back out the door into our community. And I was just wondering if you have any data to support how fast and amazing the work is that's coming out of the planning department. Maybe the average time that folks are applying and getting approval.
Absolutely, thank you. Lisa Anderson, I'll go be your planning administrator. Well, the first thing to note is that applications are up, so we're busier than ever. January to September, so the first 9 months of this year, applications are up 21% over the same time frame last year. I wish I could say our staffing was up, but same staff. So we have an internal goal that when you submit an application, we'll respond to you within 20 days, and we've been hitting that 75% of the time. State law gives us 30, so we always do it within 30, but we try to hit 20. For applications where you're not required to send notice, we have a goal to try to issue the decision within 25 days. Wow. And in the quarter ending in July, we hit that for 80% of our applications. So that's pretty good. And then applications where we're required to send notice, we have a goal of issuing a decision within 45 days, and we've been meeting that 90% of the time in the quarter ending in July. So that's pretty good. I will say I don't have the data for the quarter ending in September. I think our numbers will drop a bit because we've had some staffing changes, so we've lost a few tenured staff and have to replace them with, newbies. So we have the same amount of people, but they can't necessarily produce the same amount of work. So. Yep.
Yes, it's amazing how those long tenured employees have that generational or that, what do they call that? That long-term knowledge, institutional knowledge. Thank you.
Yep.
And it really is priceless.
Yep.
But I'm really glad to hear that we are hiring new people. Yep. And this is just amazing. I know we hear people complain that things aren't happening fast enough or whatnot, but to really get the data and to know the facts that your planning department is doing amazing work in a very timely manner, and oftentimes beating the standard. So thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you. And I will just say, there's many permits that go into development, so land use is just one small part of it. There's public construction permits, you might think of, they call it public works permits, building permits, et cetera. So we have data on all the different permits. We don't have as much data as we would like, but we've been working on getting more data on how fast applications are coming in, who's submitting them, what it's missing, how long it's with the city, with the applicant, et cetera. We did that as part of our Bloomberg Harvard program, and then we had a Bloomberg Harvard fellow or intern over the summer that did some really great information and data polling for us. So I believe we do have plans to bring that to council a little bit later this year and present our initial findings and the recommendations that are coming out of that to improve the permit process.
I can't wait to see that. That's going to be amazing. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Phillips.
Thank you. On 6J, the update on the bond, the public safety and community,
bond.
the livability bond. I just wanted to comment a couple things. One, to thank the community for investing here in Salem. A lot of good things are coming. I'm really looking forward to progress on the McGilchrist Street with the intersection at 22. Been out there several times in the past few years. My kids used to go to the jiu-jitsu place out there on McGilchrist, and then we've got the Navigation Center and the Public Works building in this part of town as well. So, I've driven on this a lot, and I think this will really help east-west connectivity throughout Salem. I think it's a big deal. I think it also really fix a lot of issues with stormwater management. I know that anytime it rains, it floods, especially where that railroad crossing is. So this is good. My comment was I had a little trouble linking to this, so I got it printed out tonight from staff, but I had trouble finding this information electronically, and it could very well just be a me thing. But I didn't get this when I first reviewed the packet tonight, and I meant to ask somebody and forgot to, but I got it in the printout here, and it's all great news. Because my question was is this just, I think there was an approval of a committee, but it also links all the updates on things that have happened, because it's $300 million are being invested over 10 years, which is kind of a big deal, and all this stuff is good. So that's more of a comment than a question, but I don't know if there was an issue with the link or if I just missed a tab that I was supposed to click on.
I don't have an answer for you. I don't know if
I don't expect an answer tonight. I don't put it out there for staff, and then might just be me.
All right, we got the thumbs up from Mr. Martin. Okay, wonderful. All right, so that completes the information reports. We have a first reading on Ordinance Bill 1324.
Ordinance Bill number 1324, an ordinance relating to the Salem Tourism Promotion Area, amending sections 38.020 and 38.150.
Do I have a motion?
Sure, I can move staff recommendations.
Second.
It's been moved by Stapleton and seconded by Councilor Phillips. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Phillips.
Aye.
Counselor Gwynn. Aye. Counselor Gonzalez.
Here. Aye.
Counselor Hoy.
Aye.
Counselor Nordike.
Aye.
Counselor Varney.
Aye.
Counselor Stapleton.
Aye.
Council President Nishioka.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy absent.
And the motion passes. We are now to second reading, 7A. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Ordinance Bill Number 1224, an ordinance declaring certain territory located at 2355 Davis Road South and land adjacent annexed to the City of Salem, prescribing zoning and withdrawing the territory from the Salem Suburban Rural Fire Protection District. Counselor Gwynn.
Aye.
Counselor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Counselor Hoy.
Aye.
Counselor Nordike.
Aye.
Counselor Varney.
Aye.
Counselor Stapleton.
Aye.
Council President Nishioka.
Aye.
Counselor Phillips.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy absent.
And the motion passes. All right, we do not have any further public comment. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your